right, good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, July 26, 2016, and this is Before the First Cup of Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Tuesday, everyone. It is 66 degrees and very pleasant and sunny here in upstate New York. We had a decent rain yesterday. I think actually we got a couple hours of rain. This big storm rolled through and blanketed most of New York State, so that was quite a help to the aquifers and the lakes and the streams that were all way down low here. I'm sure it wasn't enough, but at least it was a good start. So where do we leave off yesterday? We titled the show, AI, Neurons, Brain, God, Epilepsy, and CRISPR. And yes, we dealt with all those things. Actually, my favorite one was the God story. Being able to see God in a, I don't know, it was some sort of brain scanner. I don't remember what kind, EEG or, I don't know, it wasn't even an fMRI. And they were doing some sort of scanning of the brain. They were able to actually see somebody having a quote-unquote religious experience in real time, literally seeing God in the ceiling, and what the brain looks like when that experience is happening. That was very, very, very interesting. I'm going to have to send my mom that story. But one of the many things that we've been dealing with is the brain, AI, this complete and utter takeover of the society that we once knew and loved, that was manual, that was done by man, as in manual, that is now being taken over by robots. And mad science gone mad. We have China working at a breakneck pace now to try to beat us in CRISPRing humans. We've done a lot of shows on CRISPRing humans and the problems with that, the ethics completely out of window, and how we have regulatory agencies that are all about making this the next big 21st century economy with precision medicine. There are federal programs and edicts, one after the other, that we've done shows about that have been passed over the last few years that has completely opened the door to us being R&D line item budgets for big pharma, big corporations, anyone and anything out there that wants to do research and include humans in it, and it's going to make rich people money. Well, pretty much the door is open. We are collateral, just like we've been told for a very long time. Well, guess what? We are. By the way, and I think it's closed, but I wanted to point out, talking about us being collateral, Clint Richardson finished his book just recently. He went offline for a while to start writing a book, and hold on, I'm going to see if I can get there. And he finished it. I believe the website is strawman.info. If it's not, I'll make sure I put the right link into the notes. No, it is. I'm pretty certain. Oh, I don't know. Maybe not. This is somebody out of the UK. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But Clint Richardson has a new book out, and that's pretty much what it deals with, is the creation of your straw man, and how they create that legal entity that then enslaves you, that makes you a piece of chattel to then be bought and sold and utilized at will. So anyway, let's get back to some of the stuff where we ended yesterday, because I have quite a bit I want to talk about today. Emerging technologies are being developed at a rapid pace, and it's hard to keep up, but hey, here's everything you need to get up to speed. So the CRISPRing trials now in China. China is going up against the United States. We have read about the case at Penn University, where they were looking at creating the first cancer therapy that would suck out your T cells, CRISPR them, and then shoot them back in. Now, we found out that there were some experiments like that before that went kind of awry. But, hey, why not? We're going to try it again. The doctor never actually got eliminated from experimenting on humans. He just had a moratorium for a while, and that was the guy who was the head of the genetics lab. PenU, I guess, has all kinds of big-time genetic research going on there, as well as all kinds of other scary things. So they were going to be working on 2 or 3 different types of cancers, and now China has come out and they've decided they're going to dedicate CRISPR to lung cancer. First CRISPR trial in humans will attempt to battle lung cancer, and the lung cancer trial will take place when? Oh, in August. Now, Penn University has only gotten the first round of approval, and that was from one of the national safety boards. I don't know if it was a safety board or an ethics board. Hold on. I'm on like sippy straw internet here, so we'll see. Yeah, leukemia was one of them. That's what I said yesterday. And there were myelinomas and a few other things. They had a bunch of different, they had 18 people. Here we go. Myelonoma, sarcoma, melanoma that have stopped responding to existing treatments. So those are the people that they are going to be working on at Penn University. And they did just get the first approval, but they have 2 more, actually, that they have to get before they can do the human testing. And I'm sure this has to do with the fact that they already had a bad experience there. But anyway, back to China. So PenU, all this money, and Obama rolling the dice. We found out the president of Penn University is on Obama's ethics board for science and technology, which of course chucked that right out a window. But China has no ethics. Well, maybe they have ethics. But the Chinese government is allowing a lot of mad science gone mad outside of the prying international regulatory eyes. And it's just like the moon race, except now this is the gene race. Whoever gets to the end first wins, regardless of whether or not it destroys ourselves. This should be highly disturbing to everyone. This is the apocalypse of biology that is taking place right now. We're in the beginning baby stages. The first human trial of cells that have been tweaked by the genome editing technique called CRISPR will begin in China in August, and that is just a few days away, reports Nature magazine or journal, science journal. The group will take white blood cells, which are part of the immune system, from people with a type of lung cancer and edit them using CRISPR technology so they can hunt cancer. Then, the lab-altered cells will be infused back into the patients. This similar approach is close to the one that they are trying in the U.S., which will test edited immune cells, those are those T cells we were talking about at Penn U, in several kinds of cancer. Trials with modified white blood cells called T cells have been run before, but scientists haven't used the CRISPR technique to make the edits, relying instead on a virus, which we talked about that, to insert the sequences into the cell's DNA. And that was the old school GMO, right? That was how they used to do GMO foods too. They would use the virus to go in, find all the cracks and crevices in the cell, invade the cell, replicate with its payload that, the guts of that virus were sucked out and a new payload that they wanted to insert into the cell was put into the virus, and then it replicated and took over the cell and did its bidding. But the new way is with this little CRISPR. I don't know, I've seen a couple different things they've used, E. coli, and I don't remember what the other one was. But it literally goes in and it acts as a guide. It can read the DNA strand and allow them to very accurately set it up to snip, 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 and then they replace and they zip, snip, zip. And it's very easy for them to accurately now make replacements in the genetic code. And that is what they're going to try in this trial. So leave it to the Chinese to jump and beat us to the punch. It says, scientists haven't used the CRISPR technique yet to make the edits rely instead on a virus. So we ended up to change the sequences in the cell's DNA. CRISPR, which is essentially a genetic copy and pasting tool, makes modifying the cells at certain spots easier. Yeah, way easier. This means that scientists can make the cells grow and rapidly multiply in addition to inserting instructions to kill cancer on site. So they'll be able to genetically modify the white blood cells to grow and prosper. And, oh, by the way, kill cancer cells. In June, an advisory panel approved the U.S. trial. So there you go. It was just some advisory panel in the U.S. Though the research requires 2 other approvals before it can begin. That research is led by Carl June at the University of Pennsylvania. Ding! Both the Food and Drug Administration and the university have yet to sign off on this research, and the researchers say the trials in the U.S. at Penn U could start by December. The Chinese research is led by Lu Yu, Lu Yu, at Sichuan University's West China Hospital, and the patients in the trial are the sickest of the sick. Now, didn't I tell you, dead, desperate, and dying, those are the ones that'll step right up for the dangling carrot, no other chance. Well, become a human guinea pig. Because you know what, Johnny? Your name's going to go down in history books as the man who was the one, the very first one who got the cure. The cure. You know, I mean, here's the thing. Honestly, I am not against helping people, and especially if it was a technology that worked, but all of these technologies are trials. And we discovered in a whole bunch of stories that trials mean, oops, big mistakes. Oops, you could go into a coma or drop dead on the spot. We just saw that there was a trial halted. I don't know if we actually covered this one. I'm going to have to see if I can find it. Because there was a trial halted. I'm sorry, this is summer break for the kids right now, so I am Mom, the tour guide for the summer, and it's very difficult for me to try and juggle. I think now there's 36 shows on the network, plus 5 days a week of my own, plus all the cutting and the maintenance and everything else, and trying to pay attention to a 24/7 10-year-old mom. It just gets to the point where something's got to give. So, sorry guys, I've had to play some rebroads. There are some days I just don't have it in me, you know. But there was a story, and make sure you keep up on my Before the First Cup feed. If you don't have Facebook, which the page on Facebook is just Before the First Cup, I have a Twitter feed. Twitter.com/Jule, Jule, the letter E, Stan 1, and that feeds you everything that I am posting on my Facebook page, and that is where I get all my stories, that when I finally am able to get my show done, I go here and I grab all the stuff I've collected and try to put it together in some sort of comprehensive show. But I don't know, guys. I guess we'll have to see. Some pretty scary stuff going on. I know that there was a, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this right now. So I might have to skip it. But there was a study where they had been doing a very similar research, something with the T cells, and putting them back into people in regards to curing cancer. And it caused some major problems, brain swelling, and death in a few of the individuals. And they died, and the clinical trial had to end. So that is bad news, and I don't know if that failure, since the research was very close to what they were doing at Penn University, I don't know if this new failure is going to halt that future test or not, but China doesn't care because they're going all out. But they're editing white blood cells, not T cells. So anyway, let's go back to where we were because I can't find it right now. Here. Anyway, so they want to do a small trial. Says the Chinese research is led by Lu Yu. What a great name that is, Lu Yu, Lu. Luyou, Lu Yu, at Sichuan University in West China Hospital. And the patients in the trial, the sickest of the sick, people with non-small cell lung cancer that has spread to other parts of the body who have failed at other treatments. The trial is small and meant to determine safety and will begin with just one patient. See, the Chinese are kind of smart. We're going to start with like 8 or 18, I think it said. It'll begin with just one patient, but expand to 30, says Nature. The researchers plan to test 3 doses of the altered T cells on patients and then watch them closely to see how they respond. And some object to the use of CRISPR to alter human genes, and we found out what is still banned in the United States is altering human genes that can be passed on to your offspring. But apparently, in the one story I read the other day, cancer cannot be passed down to your offspring. And I don't see, though, I can see the tumor cells or the out-of-control cells not being passed down, but you still have the genetic predisposition and even potentially some epigenetics. I mean, if you ate bad food that then made some of your genes go rogue, I don't know. I think you might still be able to pass down some ability to then be capable of getting cancer. What if you ate all kinds of poisons while you were pregnant? Well, see, that's the thing. Lots of questions, people. And they act like, these mad scientists act like we know everything. You know, we know everything about what's going on. We're the smart ones. We're the ones with knowledge. So, shh, you silly people. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. You know, these scientists back from the Manhattan Project and the biological warfare program that originally were working on all these technologies that now have launched so many poisons upon this world. Those guys thought they knew what they were doing too. Except the bad news is that when you have all this stuff left over, what do you do with all the garbage? You know, we have no recycling program. We have no waste program, really, that ever gets rid of it. They just kind of buried this stuff and dumped this stuff and put it in the ocean and let it go in the air and burned it and did whatever. That then led to lots of people ending up with mysterious diseases and illnesses and cancers, and it's just very incredibly sad. And I mean, that was the last generation or two. We have now moved on to direct editing, utilizing humans as research vesicles. This is no longer in a petri dish, and they let all those genies out of the bottle for a lot of different things already, so we got a big, big, big petri dish now called Earth. But now we're moving on to the petri dish called your body. Human genetics, DNA strands. And these things are the gifts that keep on giving, not just to your children, but to the future of all humanity. And that's where this big problem comes in. We are treading right now on thin ice for the human race 1.0. I am afraid that it may already be too late. 1.0 might already be a little too far down the line. You know, don't think that all of these GMO foods that we've been consuming that we didn't know about. And I'm telling you, I was explaining to my daughter the other day, we saw something on TV the one night, and I was talking to her about them sneaking the GMOs into our foods long, long before GMO was ever anything that we even understood. And we're talking like the mid-90s from what I've been able to estimate commercially. It looks like that Flavor Saver tomato came out, and we were consuming those, yet we had no clue, and it was without informed consent of any way, shape, or form. Those Flavor Saver tomatoes got into the food supply. It looked like only for a short period of time, but they were in the food supply nonetheless. And I was explaining to her how, right back at that time, in my own personal research, we've dug this up, that was when I started to have all those freaky tomato allergies. And I mean, like, out of the blue. Never had allergies to food before, and every time I'd eat tomatoes, head-to-toe hives. And it really turned into a problem. that was the beginning of my downward spiral. That and that very first ever and only free flu shot I got in college. And shortly thereafter, lo and behold, is when I got diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome because I was so sick. And then started to have autoimmune diseases and digestive problems and internal swelling of my digestive tract and all this horrible stuff going on that sent me down the next 20 years of being very ill with no explanation except doctors sending me from one to another, and I became one of those guinea pig pincushions, referrals left and right, CAT scans, x-rays, internal GIs, this pill, that pill, try this, we don't know, here, drink this radioactive iodine. I mean, I'm telling you, I have been through the gamut of just about everything, all kinds of horrible stuff. That in the end, after they told me for like the 10th time I was dying from some horrible cancer that didn't end up panning out, I was like, screw this shit. I'm not doing this anymore. And that's when I started working on trying to fix myself. And what was interesting is that it was still, some of that time was before the internet or before we really understood. And I just started eating and taking things that almost were intuitive. And one of them happened to be the ginger and the green tea. That's kind of how it all started. Cutting out the junk food, getting rid of the processed foods. And I don't know, knock on wood, but most of my issues are gone. And you know, I start to have problems again when what? Oh, I fall off the bandwagon and I'm at someone's house and they got like some really super tasty corn on the cob cooking. I haven't had corn in years because don't forget, 90% of corn in the U.S. is genetically modified. And yet that, I'm almost positive what it is about corn that bothers me so bad. And again, I'm going to tell you, I did fall off the bandwagon in the last couple weeks. And yes, there was some tasty corn on the barbecue. Oh my God. I couldn't help it. It was barbecued chicken, salt potatoes, some broccoli, and some wonderful, amazing barbecued corn. So I had I was going to say a slice. I had an ear, but guess what? Guess what happened? Intestinal inflammation. And I'm not just talking like, oh, you got a couple stomach cramps. I'm talking like literally for 3 days, you could feel when you sit down where the intestines curve around, you could literally feel that inside it was all puffed up. And I started thinking, you know, what could be causing this in the GMO corn? And you know, that BT toxin, that botulism, whatever it's called, you know, this is shit they shoot into models' faces to make their lips go numb and swell so they look all hot. Well, that stuff is the same stuff that they use to make bug stomachs explode in the BT corn. That stuff is the same stuff that when it gets into me, I'm pretty sure that is what is making my intestines swell. Thank goodness they're not exploding. It would be kind of messy. But how frightening is that? And that is in our food, and it's been in our food for a very long time. Those Flavor Saver tomatoes are off the market. But who knows what else has been put into the food supply that we are not aware of. And we have all these sick people and people with autoimmune diseases and 21st century illnesses. Glyphosate is a huge, huge motivator for the cascade that happens to illness, causes inflammation and all kinds of other issues with your immune system. So anyway, I don't know why I got on that tangent, but just this genie getting out of the bottle, I mean, it is a little late. We have rolled things out that have changed the way our bodies work, that have caused changes to our body that are now influencing future generations through our illnesses even. All right, so back to this CRISPRing. Humans. I want to find the one about the Chinese. Yeah, so here's the last paragraph about the Chinese CRISPRing that is going to be happening in August. Some object to the use of CRISPR to alter human genes, and the technology remains an ethical gray area. Because why? Well, it is so new that no one knows what its consequences might be. Now, guys, this is what I've been saying. These guys act like they know everything that's going to happen, except that we are tinkering with the building blocks of all of life here. We are tinkering with genes that can be passed down for eons, generation to generation. And just like in genetically modified food that they created and tested on us without our knowledge, and now here we are 20, 30 years later, and we got all these illnesses and autoimmune diseases and cascading problems and obesity and diabetes and dementia. Oh my God! Where did this all come from? Cancers through the roof. Oh, you don't think that maybe, just maybe, regardless of the fact that every paid shill out there is telling you that GMOs are safe, hey, we didn't see anything wrong. Maybe, just maybe, since, we didn't understand half of what's going on inside of our cells, we're just now starting to discover the tips of the iceberg of some of this new stuff that they're finding in genetics. Maybe, just maybe, these GMOs we've been consuming all this time haven't been safe for us. Maybe, just maybe. I know, suspend your disbelief. But maybe, just maybe, they are responsible for all the problems that are being had right now in health. But hey, problem, reaction, solution. Isn't that what it's all about? So now we have this blossoming 21st century precision care that is coming, all done in the name of science, all doing genetics to customize medicine just for you. And you know what? They're all going to get rich doing it. It's going to allow them to control life from a biological level. So what a great plan that was. And they're even using the same technologies now, CRISPR, not only to start tinkering with humans, but we also read about all the new CRISPRing plants that they're doing to get around GMO regulations. Isn't that lovely? Alright, some object to the use of CRISPR to alter human genes. Technology remains an ethically gray area because it is so new that no one knows what the consequences might be. And for that reason, John Holdren of the White House Office of Science said last year that changes to the genes that could be passed down to offspring should not yet be explored. But these T cells aren't that kind of alteration, so the only person who should feel their effects is the one being treated for cancer, and that's what I said. And they keep echoing that. But you know what? Our learning is just so minuscule at this point that I wouldn't be surprised if a few years down the line they're going to find out that, editing those T cells actually caused some issues for the children of those people because, now T-cell functionality has been mutated. Who knows? How do they know? They haven't done multi-generational T-cell editing and then had 22 generations of children after that to make certain that it didn't make any unintended changes. And that's the problem. These GMO foods, the same exact thing. Where are they doing multi-generational studies previous to release of any of the stuff to make certain that there aren't any unintended results? They're not. They're doing it real time on you and me and Nana and Susie and Johnny and Fido. And we become the real life guinea pigs. Alright, so speaking of killing cancer, there's actually another interesting story, and I was kind of intrigued by this. Engineers program E. coli to destroy tumor cells. Now, this might be a treatment I might be able to get behind. This isn't any mad freak gone mad type stuff. This is just good old E. coli. Gotta love it, gotta hate it. Researchers at MIT and the University of California, San Diego have recruited some new soldiers in the fight against cancer, and that is bacteria. In a study that appears July 20th in the version of Nature, scientists have programmed harmless strains of the bacteria to deliver toxic payloads. And when deployed together with traditional cancer drugs, the bacteria shrank aggressive liver tumors in mice much more effectively than either treatment alone. This new approach exploits bacteria's natural tendency to accumulate at disease sites, and certain strains of bacteria thrive in low oxygen environments such as tumors, and suppression of the host immune system also creates favorable conditions for bacteria to flourish. Tumors can be friendly environments for bacteria to grow, and we are taking advantage of that, says Shangita Bahita, who is the John and Dorothy Wilson Professor of Health Sciences and Electrical Engineering and Computer Sciences at MIT, and a member of MIT's Cook Institute of Integrative Cancer Research and its Institute for Medical Engineering and Science. So that same Jeet Gita sounds like one smart cookie. Bahita and Jeff Hasty, a professor of bioengineering at the University of California, San Diego, are the senior authors of the paper, and the lead authors are also graduate student Omar Din and former MIT postdoc Tal Dinino, who is now an assistant professor of biomedical engineering at Columbia. The research team began looking at the possibility of harnessing bacteria to fight cancer several years ago, and in a study published last year focusing on cancer diagnosis, the researchers engineered a strain of what? Probiotic bacteria. Remember, too, we got that new company that spun out of MIT with Bill and Melinda Gates funding called Symbiotics that's going to be genetically engineering gut bacteria to cure you. The researchers engineered a strain of probiotic bacteria similar to those found in yogurt to express a genetic circuit that produces a luminescent signal detectable with a simple urine test if liver cancer is present. These harmless strains of E. coli, which can be either injected or consumed orally, intend to accumulate in the liver because that is one of the liver's jobs, is to filter bacteria out of the bloodstream. And in their new study, the researchers delivered artificial genetic circuits into the bacteria. Now, I'm not all for that. Artificial genetic circuits, oh my God. That allows the microbe to kill cancer cells in 3 different ways. One circuit produces a molecule called hemolocin, which destroys tumor cells by damaging their cell membranes. Another produces a drug, so they got E. coli producing drugs live inside of you after they've programmed them. Wow, this is kind of frightening. Another produces a drug that induces the cell to undergo programmed suicide. All right, that sounds like something I want to accidentally get into me. And the third circuit releases a protein that stimulates the body's immune system to attack cancer. Now, I'm going to tell you, this definitely sounds pretty damn interesting. But talk about a double-edged sword. I mean, if they could take something as simple as E. coli bacteria, something that can be either eaten or injected, something that is common that could be in your gut, and they can program that bacteria to produce drugs. One drug that causes cells to commit programmed suicide, another drug that produces medication that'll damage cell membranes, and a third that'll produce a protein that stimulates the body's immune system to attack different parts of itself. This could be used as a bioweapon, and probably a very efficient one without much in the way of traces of damage. To prevent potential side effects from these drugs, researchers added another genetic circuit, so we now got number 4, that allows the cells to detect. Now this is insane. The researchers have added another genetic circuit that allows the cells to detect how many other bacteria are in their environment through a process known as quorum sensing. And when the population reaches a predetermined target level, the bacterial cells then self-destruct, releasing all of their toxic contents all at once. Guys, Could you imagine? They could get you to eat this stuff and get the bacteria to breed in your environment and grow like crazy and be loaded with something like, I don't know, arsenic. I don't know, some real potent poison. So when it came time, that good old quorum sensing, oops, Johnny, your time is up. And they just all explode at once and poison you. Guys, the thing is, they're doing all this wonderful research to try and cure all these diseases in the name of, you being healthy. But the thing is, we're giving up all the secrets to every bit of biology. Not only on how to make things live longer, but how to kill things better. What do you think this is all about? Don't think that they're dumping bazillions of dollars into all this research just because they care about you and your cancer. They don't. They don't give two shits about you. What they give two shits about is being able to wipe out 10 million people if need be to hold China hostage when we're in the middle of World War III. That's what they care about. They care about being able to release a pandemic to get rid of all the unwanted on planet Earth because, hey, you know what? Resources are too scarce. And our planet can't support 7 billion people, wink. That's what this is about. And I am not crazy. Absolutely not. We've been able to trace all this mad science back to Project Paperclip. And even before that, some of the crazy experimentation that was going on globally, and then the stuff they brought over to Plum Island as part of their biowarfare program of the United States. And none of that ever ended. Officially it did, but under the covers it did not. All this mad science has kept going. And everything that is a cure is also able to cause death. So let's read that thing back again, because this was pretty frightening. To prevent potential side effects from these drugs, the researchers have added another genetic circuit that allows the cells to detect how many other bacteria are in their environment through a process known as quorum sensing. And while the population reaches a predetermined target level, then the bacteria self-destructs, releasing their toxic contents all at once. It just sounds like a James Bond movie. A few of the cells survive to begin the cycle all over again, which takes about 18 hours, allowing for the repeated release of drugs in your body. How amazing is that? And I mean, it depends on what drugs these bacteria are producing, but it seems to me that they can produce all kinds of drugs. All they gotta do is program the little circuits. Says that allows us to maintain the burden of the bacteria in the whole organism at the low end and to keep pumping drugs only into the tumor or whatever else we select, wink. The researchers tested the bacteria in mice with a very aggressive form of colon cancer that spreads to the liver, and actually I have a friend who I've known for 40 years who has that right now. And the bacteria accumulated in the liver began their cycle of growth and drug release, and on their own they reduced tumor growth slightly, but when combined with chemotherapy drugs 5-fluorouracil, which is often used to treat liver cancer, they achieved a dramatic reduction in tumor size, much more extensive than if the drug were used on its own. This approach is well suited to liver tumors because bacteria taken orally have high exposure there, says Bahita. And if you want to treat tumors outside the gut or the liver with the strategy, you would need to give a higher dose, inject them directly into the tumor, add additional homing strategies. So homing strategies as in a way for it to bag, tag, and track where it's supposed to be going, like a homing pigeon. In previous studies, the researchers found that engineered bacteria that escape from the liver are effectively cleared by the immune system, and that they tend to thrive only in tumor environments, which should help minimize the potential side effects. Phew. Now again, I don't think this is a bad idea. Actually, this is a pretty interesting way to utilize biology we already have. I don't really like the idea of programming bacteria, because we have people like Bill and Melinda Gates that are involved in some of this programmed gut bacteria that MIT was talking about a while ago. But on the other hand, this is using nature to beat some badness in nature, albeit synthetic nature, and they're looking also at creating fully synthetic bacteria themselves. But I would rather have a programmed bacteria, I guess, than a nanobot for certain inside of me. Though I'd rather have neither. The researchers are now working on programming bacteria to what's a hoe? But here we go, double-edged sword. They're working on programming bacteria to deliver other types of lethal cargo. Yes, remember, these are all killing machines. They also plan to investigate which combinations of bacterial strains and tumor targeting circuits would be most effective against different kinds of tumors. The study was funded by the San Diego Center for Systems Biology, the National Institute of General Medical Sciences, the Ludwig Center for Molecular Oncology at MIT, and the Anmar G. Bose Research Grant, Howard Hughes Medical Institute, the Cook Institute Support Grant from the National Cancer Institute, and the Core Center Grant from the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. What do you think of them apples? So, alright, let's take a look now. I'll tell you about genetic modification. I saw a real shilly piece the other day that I wanted to share with you. I've subscribed to that Oxitec, the makers of the genetically modified mosquitoes. That did again. We tracked back. They had some funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Oxitec out of the UK. I've done a lot about them. Who created the GMO mosquitoes that they released in the Cayman Islands. Now they're into phase 2 or 3 of releasing them in Brazil. They released those diamondback moths without any type of environmental study in New York State, right near the organic cabbage farm. And of course, we have the United States that declared a Zika emergency. Oh my God, so much so that we have now a full-blown task force as part of the CDC and $1 billion dedicated from Obama to fight Zika because holy shit, we have all these cases all over the United States. And I even saw that there was a mysterious case, and maybe I can find it here. Check this out, never before seen. Oh my goodness, fear, fear, fear. Nobody can explain how this mystery case of Zika spread in Utah. And I mean, you could spread it now by passing it down through sex. Did you see that? It's not just mosquitoes. And if you come here and you're infected from going to Brazil or someplace like that that's way infected, you come here and a mosquito bites you and then goes next door and bites your neighbor. Oh no, it could spread it to your neighbor as well. You can get it through all kinds of different ways. I wouldn't be surprised if you can get it through swap and spit. Well, now they have a patient in Utah that got it mysteriously through no other known transmission route. What are the chances of that happening? Well, I know. If you would have asked me, I probably would have guessed it. Zika might be spreading in new ways. Oh, never before seen, right? I mean, that should be the headline to one of these shows, or to most of these shows. Never before seen. We're just baffled. Scientists are baffled, is what they say. Again, welcome to the biowarfare program. Insects as disease vectors. If you remember, we covered weeks on that as part of the original biowarfare program, mosquitoes being one of them. Bill Gates talking about mosquitoes as flying vaccines. Of course they are. It's all part of the plan. Health authorities in the U.S. are baffled. Baffled, they say, by a patient in Utah who appears to have contracted the Zika virus through what could be a new, never before seen, it's my brackets, channel of infection. The Zika virus is usually spread through mosquito bites of the Aedes aegypti or through sexual transmission, but in this case, neither of those appear to have been involved. This is an unusual case. The individual does not have any of the known risk factors that we have seen thus far with Zika, says Health Officer Gary Edwards from the Salt Lake County Health Department to reporters during a news conference. But although an incident of Zika spreading without mosquitoes or sex is alarming, Alarming, I say. Researchers still don't fully understand what is going on just yet, but hey, we're going to tell you right here, don't panic. And they did say that. The patient, whom Utah health officials say is the 8th Utah resident to be diagnosed with Zika, has since recovered from the virus. Yes, that virus that really wasn't a virus that anybody worried about because it really didn't have any type of horrifying side effects, but oh my goodness, just out of the blue it came out and started causing microencephaly to hundreds of thousands. I don't even know what the count was. Hundreds of thousands of children. Of course, they've only proved one case, and now they're even questioning that, but who knows? Follow the narrative. Do what they tell you to. That's what it all comes down to. This is all bullshit, people. It's all bullshit. And you know what? When stuff like this happens, I'm going to probably guess that if it wasn't something that was done in the lab and let go, that it was something that was caused by some genetic mutation, by some shit we put in the environment. You know what I mean? Like, all of this stuff, when I read stuff like this, there's always something behind what is happening. Don't believe things at their face value. Don't believe the yarn that they spin and feed to the public. Ever. Ever, ever. If there's one thing I am teaching my child, that is to question the narrative. Anything you hear, I want her to look at with a logical mind and go, well, does this make sense? Like, how many of these never-before scenes are we going to see this week? I mean, we have so many of them constantly. Every other week, oh my God, look at, there's this new one. It's all blamed on climate change. You know what? It's an agenda. It is an agenda to herd us like cattle into a corner somewhere so they can impose whatever these next few years are going to impose upon us, which isn't going to be good for you and me or for our freedom. This individual has not traveled anywhere where the Zika virus is common or had sex with anybody who was infected or who traveled to the Zika area. And further, there is no evidence of the Aedes aegypti mosquito in Utah. So it's unlikely that the patient was infected locally through an insect bite. So how did this patient get Zika? Well, the most likely explanation looks to be that the person had close contact with someone infected by the virus, acting as a caregiver to an elderly man who had contracted Zika through travel. The elderly man died in June, although it is not clear if Zika contributed to his death. But the fact remains that nobody understands how this caregiver might have contracted Zika from an elderly patient, since the two did not share sexual contact, which is the only way scientists thought the infection could spread directly from person to person in the absence of mosquito-borne transmission. Now, talk about frightening. Now, I'm going to say is there have been a lot of strange things going on with mosquitoes lately. Would you agree? I would agree. And we've also had mosquitoes in the lab being genetically modified and released into the environment, with them giving it a rubber stamp of approval saying that they're safe. And that, hey, don't worry about it even if tetracycline is in the environment all over. And those female mosquitoes that were supposed to die could actually, their larvae could live because of the tetracycline all over in livestock and in water supplies and in us and whatever. They're not going to mutate. Don't worry about it. There will be no mutation. They're all going to die. Don't worry about it. We're going to release them all over the Keys in Florida. And look at, we're spraying already because Zika's rampant in New York, where it's just so hot all the time. Texas, in the middle of the desert, they got millions of mosquitoes there at alert level 10, according to AccuWeather.com. I mean, are you kidding me? This is a bunch of bullshit. I think Billy Gates in that TED conference, when he gave that evil laugh and he let those mosquitoes go and everyone in the audience started freaking out, and he was talking about mosquitoes being flying syringes, and then him giving money to organizations researching mosquitoes and doing all kinds of mad science gone maddy things to them, has something to do with each other. Why all of a sudden on AccuWeather.com do they have a mosquito alert level? I don't know. It's the first time I've ever seen that. And here in New York, I happen to be at number 7. know what, I don't get mosquitoes bad here. And they're all like, well, you had a mild winter, that's why you have lots of mosquitoes. Well, but it's not hot and humid and the type of environment here really the mosquitoes like much. I mean, I guess if it were really damp and I had ponds and mosquito larvae, I mean, I used to have mosquitoes in my backyard years ago. I don't really get them much anymore, but I have a friend in Texas. We're talking in the desert, 100 plus degrees every day. And they had a mass mosquito problem. And I know, it's like, oh yeah, the swamp's nearby or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it's possible. Sure is possible. But I don't know about mosquitoes that live for too long in 100-degree blazing near the equator heat in July. I hate to tell you. These must be some new and improved mosquitoes like those ones we saw last year or the year before. There was a video that came out about those new mosquitoes that blew in on Hurricane Debbie and ended up in Florida. They were the size of pterodactyls, relatively speaking, in mosquito land. And they could bite through clothing. Their bite felt like a stabbing of a knife. And they could attack fish and dogs as well as humans. But don't worry about it because they don't have any diseases. And they're way safer than the mosquitoes we have now. And oh, by the way, they eat indigenous mosquito larvae. So we don't have to worry about any diseases anymore. But hey, these were brand new mosquitoes. We don't know where they came from. They just blew in on a hurricane, but they had all these interesting features that we seem to know lots about. I mean, guys, I really think that they've been working on this stuff for a long time, genetically modifying these things, releasing them, and just not saying anything. And I'm wondering if that isn't what is going on now. And now we have some unintended consequences, like some mystery transmission of Zika through no other way that they possibly understood before. We don't have any evidence that suggests that Zika can be passed from one person to another by sneezing or coughing or kissing or sharing utensils, says Thomas R. Frieden, the director. He's the one that, almost was in tears over Zika. The director of the CDC told the media, nor do we have any evidence that it could be passed by routine touching or hugging, that the CDC is working with Utah health officials to investigate the case. And you know what? We needed a case like that to give them a way to start spending their $1 billion emergency funding that they have for the Zika SWAT team. Zika has previously been detected in blood, semen, vaginal fluid, saliva, and urine. Maybe the old guy peed on her. That's very possible. She had to clean up some wet sheets. And while experts thought that it required sexual contact for infection to spread, the Utah case raises the possibility that Zika in rare circumstances might also be able to be transmitted in these fluids outside of sex. Well, duh. If something's carried in urine and saliva, I mean, it's not going to require sex to get bodily fluids from one person to another necessarily. That's ridiculous. This raises some interesting questions, says infectious disease specialist William Schaffner from Tennessee. Was there a needle stick or an injury, or if not, was there possible contact with other bodily fluid like urine or saliva? And I bet he's getting paid a lot of money to come up with that question. Adding further to the strange nature of the incident is the unusually high levels of the virus that were in the deceased elderly patient. Oh my God! Doesn't it sound like Ebola? They thought they cured Ebola. They genetically modified Ebola, that the one fruit bat that spread everywhere. And after they, quote-unquote, killed Ebola doing the antibody infusion from one person to another with some genetically modified crap that they were messing around with, they found out that some of those people were never cured, that they just replicated and hid in the eyeball or in the testicle or places of that nature. Well, listen to this. According to the CDC, this dead patient's blood showed Zika levels more than 100,000 times higher than seen in any other ever sample from infected people. although it is not known yet what impact this might have on its transmissibility. Are you freaking kidding me? So we got mutant Zika, alive and well, and a dead man in Utah. Put on a seatbelt, and there's Oxitec is getting ready to release more genetically modified mosquitoes. They introduced a press release yesterday. Independent study reveals public support for genetically engineered mosquitoes across the United States. Independent polls, and this is from Oxitec themselves, independent polls indicate that there is a strong public support for the use of genetically engineered mosquitoes to help fight Zika. 3 recent independent studies have all shown that people are for GMO mosquitoes to help save them from mutant Zika that apparently is now running amok. Alright guys, make sure you stick around. Today is Tuesday. All kinds of awesome radio. We have tonight at 11 a.m. Eastern, Mr. Kevin Blanche live up next. And then Ron Game On live at 7 p.m. Eastern. 8, the Barbarian Lounge, brand spanking new. And at 9, live, the boys from Primer Time. And at 10, SM Gibson with Anti-Media Radio. Alright guys, have an awesome Tuesday, and I will catch up with you tomorrow. Everybody take care.